We really need to talk about a complete agri-food system that goes all the way from input through production, processing, marketing channels to consumers. So that whole value chain, but also framed within a context of the resources that sustain that productivity and that value chain, and also considering the waste flows from it. So actually moving very close to kind of a circular economy sort of notion about how materials flow and what the footprint is, both socially and environmentally, of the food system. So in the CGIAR, there's a long tradition about thinking about farming systems. And many people are really very conversant in that. People have made their careers in that. But we've had dramatic changes. That farming systems work goes back to the 1970s or 80s. But in that period, those successive decades, a whole generation, the world has changed. So agriculture has gotten a lot smaller as a share of GDP, but also we've become an urban species. And so that means that, that these value chains are longer, more complex, and much of what is value added in the food system actually doesn't count within the conventional agricultural accounting. So if we're thinking about whether it's value or whether it's employment opportunities, we have to face that maybe more than half of the action is actually beyond the farm. That requires a completely different way of thinking and framing programs. And we have to, it's a much bigger set of food systems thinking. This is coupling of a very complex social system with a very complex ecological system that supports our food system and is affected by the food system. The other thing is, and this is a real challenge and something of a dilemma for the CGIAR, is that there are many intervention points in this system, and the people who have the expertise at the level of the intervention are not always in a position to see the ultimate impacts. So systems theorists call these emergent properties. So a lot of the action might be at the farm level, but the impacts are happening 1,000 kilometers away in a big city. And one of the things that came out of the special issue was really clear that even for the case that we think we know the best about yield improving breeding, that a big part of the employment and the prosperity that comes from that happens off the farm. It's a very different way of thinking, and it requires, I think, a very different sort of program design, leadership, and also partnerships.